Modern medical school education does not focus on the body's absolute need for vitamins, minerals, and amino acids to fuel every hormonal, metabolic, and enzymatic process the body needs for basic living requirements. Because of this, the vital importance of nutrients has completely escaped the public's attention. Meanwhile, our modern food supply, coupled with mass confusion around dieting habits, fad diets, and commercial farming practices, has led to widespread, population-level micronutrient deficiencies across the world. We're not just overfed and undernourished, but a lot of foods that we're told are healthy are in fact loaded with anti-nutrients that strip our bodies of vital minerals that we need. Deficiencies cause most health problems, from sexual dysfunction to metabolic disorders, thyroid, brain, and circulation disorders, and even hair loss. So why do doctors and nutritionists discount, or worse, ignore the importance of vitamins and minerals in our bodies to function properly? And why are we constantly being told that pharmaceuticals are the only way to solve health problems? Is there something more sinister at play? Is it really possible that something as simple as correcting your deficiencies can reverse major issues quickly? And who stands to profit from keeping us in the dark about this? Welcome to the Upside Down. It's time to think again.
Here is a sign of a healthy America. Health and vitality.
12 years. We have 2 literal hours of nutrition.
We should include a green vegetable, preferably pea.
Figured on gallons, but on vitamin content.
If it wasn't for zinc, D3, and magnesium, I'd be dead or in prison right now. It saved my life.
Jeff has a story that's really similar to a lot of people that I've talked to over the years, albeit his might be a bit more extreme than most. At the heart of his journey lies drug use, all pharmaceutical and other legal drugs, misinformed doctors, and one blood test that changed everything. It's not unlike my own story. In fact, it's super common to see this pattern in this day and age, and you might see your own story in this as well.
As a child, I was plagued with unexplained skin rashes, sore muscles, and bad mood swings. It wasn't until I was in my 20s before I found out why, since childhood, I had experienced these issues. When I was a teenager, I discovered alcohol, and I used to get up all the time. It was just something that, my friends and I just always did. Recreation, sport, it was competition. But that quickly spiraled into some sort of self-medication escape from reality. When I started working in a hydraulics plant, I got a prescription from my family doctor for Adderall. Using amphetamines as a strong upper to balance out depression effects of my nightly drinking, helping me get up in the morning and stay alert on a demanding job. This brought on its own series of problems.
His mood swings got worse and he started street fighting. And within a 6-month period, both Jeff's father and his girlfriend had committed suicide. He went to go see a doctor who gave him an antidepressant and the antipsychotic drug, Seroquel, just to fall asleep.
So I was just pumping my body with so much trash just to get out of bed. And then I needed to bring myself down at the end of the day. Soon, I started experiencing issues with erectile dysfunction. My libido completely disappeared. This is when the warning bell started to ring.
Jeff stopped taking the antidepressant and the Seroquel, and he went on the hunt for a doctor who he could trust to give him real information about how to turn his health around naturally. He found a doctor who came highly recommended in an affluent area, and after a 90-minute appointment explaining his history, she ordered him a blood panel to measure his micronutrient levels. She recognized some patterns in his behavior that have been observed as signs of key deficiencies, especially with respect to mental health, by researchers in the field of nutrient studies like alcohol abuse, rashes, and mood swings. The blood test results showed massively high levels of copper in Jeff's blood, along with some glaring deficiencies in zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and the B vitamins. She immediately put Jeff on a high daily dose of zinc picolinate, D3, B vitamins, and magnesium powder. After about 3 months of feeling pretty average with the supplements, Jeff experienced a massive breakthrough that his doctor had told him would be coming. He finally passed the copper out of his body.
I remember it was Christmas at my mom's. I had to curl up in one of the downstairs bathrooms, and I had a terrible stomach ache, and I had to sit on the toilet for a while. Everything was just orange. The doctor told me that it was the copper passing out of my body.
After that day, Jeff started to feel better and better every day. He stayed on his daily supplement regimen, and within months he ditched all drugs he was using and massively cut down on his alcohol intake.
Fixing my deficiencies helped clear away these health issues that I've had since my childhood. My once crippling depression is now completely gone. I feel 100 times better now than when I was growing up.
He used to stay home alone and avoid people, but now he works as a successful project manager in a construction company and spends most of his day willingly socializing and coordinating large-scale projects with his peers. He's also taken his experience and is now helping his family members. Recently, he helped his brother get off his antidepressants and pursue a natural nutrient-based therapy for depression.
I hate to think about how many people out there could be happy and anxiety-free, but their doctors are pumping them full of these pharmaceuticals.
So why doesn't the general public know about the importance of nutrients and the devastating effects that nutrient deficiencies can have on their health? One of the main reasons is the lack of nutrition education in medical schools. A lagging medical school curriculum with almost zero focus on nutrition remains the societal choke point for mass awareness around nutrients, mainly due to the fact that a majority of the population still looks to medical doctors for solutions to their health problems. This appeal to authority will no longer serve us in the development of our understanding of human health, and the evidence only gets clearer and clearer that, to this point, it has done nothing but send us in the wrong direction. This sentiment has begun to shift slightly over the past decade due to the faster spread of information over the internet and the ability to gain access to legitimate scientific literature databases. However, not every person who reads or spreads information is necessarily qualified to accurately disseminate its meaning, and therefore the spread of misinformation has also simultaneously become easier, leaving people more confused than ever about the right way to eat for health and leaving them vulnerable to predatory marketing and propaganda. Governing medical bodies have analyzed and surveyed medical school curriculums for decades. All surveys have come to similar conclusions about the inadequacy of nutrition education, with this specific 2010 study citing the fact that only 26 medical schools in the US out of the 127 accredited US med schools required a dedicated nutrition course during the entire curriculum.
One of my good friends is a physician in San Antonio, and he said he went to school for 12 years. 12 years. He had 2 literal hours on a Wednesday afternoon for nutrition, and that's it.
In 2011, California introduced a bill that required physicians and surgeons to complete a mandatory continuing education course in the subject of nutrition and lifestyle behavior for the treatment of chronic diseases. Even though it was a 7-hour credit course that was one time only, many medical establishments adamantly opposed it.
Teresa Stark with the California Medical Association. We are in opposition today. We would like to thank the author and his staff and his proponents for talking with us extensively about this bill. CMA consistently, we have policy that we oppose any CME mandates on physicians.
Representing the California Orthopedic Association. So this is just one more additional, and it's not minor, it's 7 hours. That's a lot. Even if it's over 1 4-year period, 7 hours is a lot for one subject.
It's very, very difficult to keep up with it all. As Dr. Hatt has pointed out, he said, I, for one, don't believe government should be involved in micromanaging.
The fact that so few medical schools actually require nutrition training is also concerning when coupled with the finding that a declining number of medical students are actually interested in learning anything about nutrition at all. A review in 2011 referenced the cause of this decline in interest as potentially being related to the fact that since the 1950s, medical students have all carried a similar sentiment that nutrition education in medical school is inadequate, similar to the studies that I cited previously. Another more recent study in 2017 in the Journal of Family Medicine found the exact same thing. Doctors across the board think that nutrition education is poorly integrated into the medical school curriculum. They witness little nutrition counseling during shadowing experiences, and the nutrition information imparted was often outdated and incorrect. And medical students entering residency programs appear to be deficient in basic nutritional knowledge. So when you combine a lack of trust in the nutrition education inside med schools, or even really a requirement for the medical students to actually take any sort of nutrition schooling or hours during their curriculum, and then add on top of that the fact that their school is extremely expensive, and then since the 1950s, these doctors really haven't trusted that nutrition education whatsoever, and even health organizations deem it inadequate. If you couple that with the fact that the school costs a lot of money, it's extremely expensive, it makes perfect sense actually why it's not a normal part of our medical establishment right now. The dissatisfaction with medical school nutrition education is not reserved for institutions in the US, however, with another study in the Canadian Journal of Applied Physiology, Nutrition and Metabolism demonstrating an average score of 4.7 for Canadian medical student sentiments about the quality of their nutrition education on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being immense dissatisfaction and 10 being satisfaction. Of the students surveyed, 87.3% of them believe that their curriculum should dedicate more time to nutrition education, referencing referencing the fact that most of the medical students were uncomfortable discussing the role of nutrition in the treatment of disease and nutrient requirements across the life cycle. According to data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey in the United States, more than 2 in 3 adults are considered to be overweight or obese, which is classified as at or above the 85th percentile on the CDC growth charts. More than 1 in 3 adults are obese, which is at or above the 95th percentile on the CDC growth charts. About 1 in 13 adults were considered extremely obese, which is at or above 120% of the 95th percentile on the CDC growth charts. And about 1 in 6 children and adolescents between the ages of 2 and 19 are obese. There's little doubt that overweight and obesity remains an escalating epidemic, at least in the US. However, medical doctors, according to a recent 2017 study in the Medical Journal of Health Promotion Practice, still remain under pressure from widespread expectations that primary care physicians counsel their overweight and obese patients in nutrition, despite the fact that very few medical school programs have given them what could be deemed as adequate training on the subject.
This specifically is a huge problem because it's set up to fail both parties involved, the patient and the practitioner.
Obese and overweight patients go to see their doctors for specific weight-related health issues that they're looking to solve, such as metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and sexual dysfunction. However, with the doctor's lack of confidence in their nutrition schooling, very few of them ever give the patients any sort of lifestyle or nutrition-related advice for reversing their health issues naturally, instead opting to prescribe them pharmaceuticals for their ailments, a subject around which they have had much more training in the medical curriculum. The pharmaceuticals tend to cause more issues than they solve, and neither the patient nor the practitioner ever actually get to the bottom of the true issue at hand, relegating the patient to a life of prescription drugs when that fate was most likely entirely unnecessary. And even though as far back as 1995, with the release of the pivotal study by Dr. Robert Kushner, where he recommended that nutrition and dietary counseling be carried out by all clinical physicians and the delivery of preventative services by primary care physicians, very little has changed in the medical practice and common clinic when it comes to actually giving patients nutritional advice. In fact, while primary care physicians still believe that it's within their realm of responsibility to provide nutritional counseling, many physicians still do not believe that their patients specifically would actually benefit from nutritional counseling, a belief that is likely due to the lack of schooling around the subject of nutrition in the first place. Accordingly, physicians frequently lack substantive nutrition knowledge and counseling skills necessary to successfully guide their patients. A recent study found that only 14% of resident physicians believe they were adequately trained to provide nutrition counseling. So again, the crossroads that we're at right now is the fact that doctors really have no trust in the quality of their nutrition education whatsoever. And you couple that with the fact that people as a society, our culture goes to doctors for health advice. So nutrition isn't really a part of that paradigm right now. And the fact that the med schools themselves, the curriculum costs a lot of money. It's extremely expensive. It's perfectly reasonable to understand why it's not a part of our modern medical establishment, but it can be pretty dangerous because we're still going to them for health advice.
So how do we get ourselves out of this mess?
First, we basically have to take responsibility for our own health. I mean, the fact is that nobody cares about your health as much as you do. So I think people need to stop abdicating their health to somebody else and really understand that there's a fundamental element to nutrition and the body's health with using vitamins, minerals, and amino acids to actually fuel all the metabolic and hormonal processes that are required. And when you understand this, you have a lot more power back in your court. You can actually do a lot more about this. An understanding of your body's building blocks reveals to you the fundamental truth, the key that will open the door to your perfect state of health. It's time we take a step back and look at the true nature of the human body. We've lost the forest for the trees. The time's come to open up a different way of thinking about your health, because like Sir Francis Bacon so eloquently stated in the Novum Organum, the basis for the scientific method as we know it today, a quite different way must be opened up for the human intellect than men have known in the past, and new aids devised so that the mind may exercise its right over nature.
A micronutrient is a chemical element or substance that's required in trace amounts for normal development and growth of a living organism.
More specifically, the term micronutrient encompasses vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, and even gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide that are required by the body of a living organism in order to properly carry out hormonal, metabolic, cellular, and neuronal functioning. Micronutrients are not needed in as high amounts as macronutrients by definition, so we tend to find the daily need for them between the microgram range up to just a few grams, depending on the micronutrient. Despite this low raw material requirement, most people are massively deficient in key micronutrients their body needs. When the body's deficient in any important micronutrient micronutrient, it has to compensate for the lack of the necessary material within the specific system that needs it by trying to find it somewhere else in the body. For example, low calcium levels, also known as hypocalcemia, which can be caused by a range of different things such as low thyroid function, low dietary calcium intake, kidney disorders, and as a side effect of many pharmaceuticals, is going to compromise the basic functioning of many important processes, especially neuronal communication, since calcium is one of our main electrolytes, or electrically charged minerals needed in the cellular communication process. Over time, a chronic calcium deficiency can lead to disorders such as osteoporosis, in this case because calcium is stored in the bones, and when the body needs it for basic neuronal functioning, it will leach it from storage areas like the bones in order to attempt to maintain normal function. Over time, this natural compensation mechanism can be deleterious to your health, developing into full-blown osteoporosis. This is precisely why it's not uncommon for people who develop bone disorders like osteoporosis to previously exhibit neurological dysfunction symptoms such as depression, brain fog, soreness, and tingling in their extremities, sometimes years before their diagnosis. The body's trying to maintain normal functioning within the important systems like your nervous system and circulatory system, which have a higher priority to your survival than your bone health. However, you can only escape the symptoms of this compensatory response for so long before it comes time to pay the piper.
A general awareness around amino acids is typically reserved for fitness enthusiasts, but amino acids are extremely important for other things outside of just gaining muscle.
All proteins in the body are made up of different chains of amino acids. Proteins run along a spectrum in their complexity with direct relation to the number, order, and variety of amino acids that make up their structural chain. The simplest way to picture an amino acid, and a structure that's common to all of them, is that amino acids are made up of a weak acid molecule group containing carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, attached to a strong acid group containing nitrogen. We typically group amino acids into two distinct types: essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids cannot be synthesized by the body and must be supplied by the diet. They are histidine, isoleucine, lysine, leucine, methionine, phenylalanine, taurine, threonine, tryptophan, tyrosine, and valine. Non-essential amino acids can be synthesized by the body by combining two or more of the essential amino acids. This combination would necessarily require adequate levels of the essential amino acids needed for the synthesis. However, the non-essential amino acids can become essential for the body during disease or disorder and stress because there is an increased need and/or breakdown of them. All stress states require more amino acids. They are alanine, arginine, aspartic acid, carnitine, cysteine, GABA, glutamic acid, glutamine, glycine, homocysteine, hydroxyproline, proline, and serine.
Vitamins are substances that the body needs to fuel important metabolic processes, oftentimes acting as cofactors. For example, in the production of serotonin, the body requires use of the essential amino acid tryptophan, and the final step requires the cofactor vitamin B6. Without one of these nutrients, the process cannot happen correctly. Another example is the neurotransmitter norepinephrine, which is produced in a process that requires both dopamine and copper as a cofactor.
Vitamins are usually classified by their solubility, either water-soluble or fat-soluble. The water-soluble vitamins are the B vitamins and vitamin C. Excess water-soluble vitamins can be easily passed out of the body via urine. The fat-soluble vitamins are vitamins A, D, E, and K. They must be more closely monitored as certain fat-soluble vitamins can build up in tissue, such as vitamin A, leading to hypervitaminosis.
While minerals in general are any sort of solid inorganic natural substance, when people refer to minerals in the context of health, they're typically referring to one of two things, either trace minerals or electrolytes, both of which are vitally important to the natural processes in your body.
Trace minerals are critical minerals needed as building blocks for hundreds of different enzymes and are necessary for hormone functioning, circulatory health, can serve as antioxidants, and are a requirement for healthy neurological functioning. They include iron, chromium, copper, zinc, iodine, manganese, selenium, and molybdenum. Electrolytes are minerals that, when dissolved in the body's fluids, create electrically charged ions. Crack open any neuroscience or biochemistry textbook and you'll quickly realize how essential electrolytes are to literally every form of cellular communication in the body. Deficiency in any one of the following nutrients can have a devastating effect on the way your cells operate and communicate with one another: sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and phosphate. You don't have these micronutrients in your diet regimen, and if you're not supplementing with them from the time you're 20 years old to 75 years old, it makes perfect sense that you're going to become chronically deficient in them.
So what is a deficiency and how do we correct them?
So a deficiency is quite literally a lack of that nutrient. So whether it's a vitamin, mineral, or amino acid, a lot of people think, I eat healthy, I'm not deficient in anything. But, what I have to say to that is basically that you're wrong.
Statistically, half the population of the entire world, the whole world, is deficient in multiple nutrients by the time they're 6 months old. Between the ages of 6 months and 5 years old, this half of the world's children are deficient in iron, iodine, vitamin A, folate, and zinc. These deficiencies cause what the CDC refers to as devastating consequences. Iron, for example, is essential in balanced levels in the body for cognitive and motor development from birth. One of the reasons that many children are iron deficient, along with other deficiencies, at or near birth, is due to the deficiency of the mother. Iodine, another extremely common prenatal deficiency, is a crucially important trace mineral needed for proper growth and development of the fetus, especially with relation to hormonal balance and brain development. Maternal iodine deficiency is recognized as the greatest cause of preventable mental impairment in the world, with 38 million newborn babies every year consequently at risk of iodine deficiency, and 18 million babies born yearly with iodine deficiency caused mental impairment. It's estimated that worldwide over 2 billion people do not consume adequate iodine to properly fuel their body's daily requirements. Vitamin A, a crucial fat-soluble vitamin necessary in the development of your eyes and immune system, is another woefully common deficiency in children and pregnant women, with 1 in 6 pregnant women carrying the deficiency and subsequently 1 in 3 school-age children with it as well. Vitamin A supplementation has, understandably, been found to improve important biomarkers in deficient children ages 6 to 59 months old as the deficiencies are overcome. From birth, most of us are already at a disadvantage. And it only gets worse from there, with not only the magnitude of these prenatal deficiencies increasing with age, but also the breadth of different deficiencies increasing as well. Meanwhile, as a population, we continue to feed our kids nutrient-void foods and foods rich in anti-nutrients, thinking that they're healthy when in fact they're leaching more and more of these precious micronutrients from our youth. Malnutrition and micronutrients are major contributors to the global burden of disease, especially in children and mothers. This undernutrition has been determined a major cause of death and disability in young children. According to research published in the British Journal of Nutrition, there's a need for additional measures to increase the intake of certain micronutrients in children, referencing specifically iron, vitamin A, and iodine, along with zinc, folate, and the other B vitamins, as well as the trace mineral selenium. Micronutrients of all varieties, but especially the prevalent childhood deficiencies such as iodine and selenium, play a central role in the maintenance of metabolism and proper tissue function. So it should come as no surprise that the incidences of metabolic syndrome and the epidemic level health issues such as hypothyroidism continue to rise rapidly every single decade, with an estimated 20 million Americans having some kind of thyroid disease and over 60% of those individuals not even knowing about their condition. Women specifically are up to 8 times more likely to develop a thyroid condition than men, and 1 in 8 women globally are predicted to develop some kind of thyroid condition in their lifetime.
These statistics are alarming, but we can fix it if we're armed with the right knowledge. Definitely don't go off doing one of those fad diets though, because fad diets have been found to be one of the leading causes of micronutrient deficiencies around the world.
On one hand, as we've discussed, many of us are at a big disadvantage when it comes to nutrient deficiencies, either at birth or by the time we're 6 months old. This is a mixture of a genetic and epigenetic predisposition that we truly can do nothing to control ourselves. It's the hand we're dealt, so to speak. We can definitely improve these prenatal deficiencies by influencing people in our own life, namely the education of mothers and soon-to-be mothers in our friends and family circles.
In terms of making an immediate positive impact, educating your friends and family about the importance of micronutrients is critical. The network effect will take care of the rest. The more people know about it, the better.
But these early life deficiencies are not the only cause of micronutrient deficiencies in humans. There are many other things that we introduce into our daily habits, specifically foods that we eat, that contain compounds that increase the chances of a nutrient deficiency. In the case of food, the most powerful blocker causing nutrient deficiencies that you're consuming on a daily basis is something known as an anti-nutrient. In its strictest sense, anti-nutrients are compounds found in plants specifically that either impair your ability to absorb nutrients from that plant or actually bind to and pass out crucial nutrients from your body. Both of these things can be easily avoided by simply not consuming the foods containing these powerful anti-nutrients. While many people use the term anti-nutrient loosely to encompass a group of different compounds, there's definitely a spectrum of the magnitude of the effect that these anti-nutrients can have on the body. One anti-nutrient in particular has been ranked by researchers as being the #1 most detrimental anti-nutrient to consume for human health, and has been specifically referred to as possibly the single biggest cause for mineral deficiencies in humans around the world. This anti-nutrient is known as phytic acid. Because of the way phytic acid is chemically structured, it has a high concentration of negatively charged phosphate groups, which means that when you consume it from certain foods, these negatively charged phosphate groups can easily bind to certain mineral ions, which makes them completely unavailable for absorption into your intestines. The most important step in proper mineral absorption is for the mineral itself to remain in ionic form. When it's bound by an anti-nutrient like phytic acid, it's no longer ionic and therefore can no longer be absorbed by your body. Phytic acid is well cited in the scientific literature as a cause cause for deficiencies with zinc, calcium, and iron, and often also for magnesium and copper. However, those claims tend to be more controversial. Phytic acid consumption has been shown to not only increase the excretion of minerals from the body, but also important amino acids, sulfur, nitrogen, and sialic acid. It's also been proven to bind to proteins at certain pH levels. Because phytic acid is found mostly in plants and in very high levels of foods like legumes, nuts, seeds, and in the bran of grains, researchers have also determined that vegans and vegetarians are at a particularly high risk for nutrient deficiencies, since they tend to rely so heavily on these food sources in their daily dietary intake. Phytic acid isn't only a culprit in mineral and amino acid excretion, unfortunately. It has also been found to be a potent inhibitor of important bodily enzymes such as trypsin, a proteolytic enzyme that plays an important role in your digestive system. Phytic acid has also been shown to negatively impact your amylase alpha digestive enzyme as well as pepsin, the chief digestive enzyme of the stomach. On top of that, it's been shown to hurt your stomach's ability to digest simple starches. All in all, eating foods that are high in phytic acid is definitely not recommended for people that want to maintain a healthy micronutrient balance and a good digestive tract. I realize it's controversial to prescribe that you should eat nuts, beans, whole grains, and seeds. However, according to scientific research, these foods are leaching important minerals from your body. And not only that, but despite the fact that every cookie-cutter health expert on the internet tells you they're nutritious, they're actually not. Your body literally cannot access most of the vitamins and minerals inside these foods due to the high anti-nutrient content.
Similar to cornstarch, chia can be used as a thickening agent and is a substitute for whole grains in your diet.
With seeds, for example, researchers have found despite the seed itself containing a lot of different nutrients, the human body can only access magnesium from the seed. All the other nutrients are wasted on us, we can't digest them. And the phytic acid in the seed can potentially leach minerals from you, so it could be a net negative effect overall. Eating seeds is worse than just wasting your money, they're anti-nutritious. This isn't even taking the other negative aspects of seeds and nuts into account, such as the extremely high polyunsaturated fat content. I'm of the belief that health needs to be more accurately defined. I think people are confused because the prevailing conventional wisdom that's being spread through the echo chamber of the mainstream media and the medical establishment is not at all rooted in a foundational look at human biology. Currently, the medical establishment defines health as the absence of disease or illness. I think this is completely ludicrous and very unhelpful. And nutritionists are still basing their recommendations off of the government food pyramid based on government-compliant textbooks, which are funded by special interest groups and corporations that have no interest in keeping you healthy. True health is when your body's not deficient in any micronutrients and therefore it's hormonally balanced. And with that in mind, you shouldn't consume anything that's going to cause micronutrient deficiencies, damage your thyroid, or your reproductive health. It's time that we as a population in the middle of a worldwide health epidemic take our power back. It's time that we think again.